Hey y'all, what's up? Wow. It is the season 3 finale, and I'm your host, Anthony Downer. This is That Way, conversations on liberation and education. Y'all, we're downtown Decatur. Let me make sure we got our brightness up because I want to make sure y'all see where we are. My apologies for being late, of course. And we are out here in downtown Decatur. Right behind me is Epster, which is our recreational center. I want to show y'all also, if we turn a little bit, can y'all see? Let me get my water bottle off the way. Can y'all see this beautiful statue? This statue is called What Sonya Said. It's by the Beacon Hill Black Alliance for Human Rights, and it pays homage to Sonia Sanchez, one of her poems. It's Afro-Indigenous statue that pays homage to the Afro-Indigenous struggle, which is the foundation of the Beacon Hill Black Alliance for Human Rights. Shout out to my comrades. Y'all, my name is Anthony Downer. I'm your host tonight, and tonight we present our season 3 finale, which will explore all things Black education, all things being Black. And we are here. I'm so happy and so proud to present tonight's conversation and really to present to y'all and bring to y'all some much needed updates on what's happening in Black America. Y'all, it's really good to be down here in downtown Decatur, right out of my City Schools of Decatur office, and just to reflect tonight on what's going on and how we continually work, continually reflect, continually build. I want to pause real quick because we have a special guest tonight that will be joining us very shortly. But first, let's get started with our program, our introduction and our opening. First, our song of the day. I want to say rest in peace to Tina Turner. Rest in peace to Tina Turner, a queen. Oh my God, the queen of rock and roll. And tonight's a song, as I was thinking about how to honor her and what song would definitely represent her identity, her contributions, it would be "We Don't Need Another Hero. We just need to know the way back home." Thank you so much to Tina Turner and to her contributions. And we say rest in power to the queen of rock and roll. Moving forward, y'all, I want to present, of course, our shared community agreements. Criticality. We are anti-racist and anti-oppressive in all forms. Our conversations critique power and promote equity, justice, liberation, and freedom. Y'all, we have authentic definitions of liberation, freedom, equity, and justice right here on this program. And we want to most definitely uplift that first uh, um, uh, uh, community agreement. Our second community agreement, we will decolonize the learning space in preparation for action. We call that intellectualism. And finally, joy. We will celebrate ourselves and our backgrounds, cultures, intersectional identities, and collective community. And as we enter into the summer months, joy has to be at the forefront of what we do. It has to be our guiding value. It has to be our North Star. We have to stay joyful, folks. We have to. And so, as we get into our Sankofa, our history segment, I have so many different things to share with you all as in terms of what it means to be Black, what's going on in Black America, and all things liberation. So in today's news across the diaspora, first we want to say Happy Mother's Day, Happy Asian Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Happy Jewish Heritage Month. Make sure you're following at Hello Liberation to get all things as far as learning links and resources on these Heritage Months and what they mean to us. We also want to make sure that we are celebrating what's coming up in June. And so we have Pride Month, we have Caribbean Month, we have Black Music Appreciation Month. So much coming up. Make sure you're following at Hello Liberation, because here we are at our this is our season finale, and so we will keep the conversations and learning going at Hello Liberation. There's so much happening, so many people, so many neighbors walking by right down here in downtown Decatur, in the city of Decatur. I'm right outside my office at City Schools of Decatur, right in front of Ebster, the Recreation Center. And I'm so happy, so proud, so glad to be down here, folks. As we keep it moving, we also say Happy Dia de la Finia Negra Nacional, which is the National Black Heritage Day in Panama. Did you know that Black History Month stretches all year long? There's celebrations in February, of course. There's celebrations in March. There's celebrations in April, May, June, all year long. As soon as we get to September and October, we'll be marking more Heritage Months across the African diaspora around the world. And we're so excited to continue to share African heritage, African wellness all throughout the diaspora. We also want to update you all that protests continue, and including those led by students against Cop City, including a recent city council meeting that was full of so many activists fighting against Cop City. And we want to make sure that we continue to update you all on how to stay plugged in, how to support this movement so that this does not happen. This facility that is planned to be built, it does not happen. We'll make sure to plug on at Hello Liberation on ways that you can fight back and resist from wherever you are in the world. Did you know there's a Cop City being built in Chicago? So my Midwestern brothers and sisters, my family up there, we have to continue the fight. I want to send a special message and set of prayers to my friend and former supervisor, Levante Stewart Jr., who served with me in the office of State Senator Kwame Raoul. He was my supervisor at this time. He is also the founder and executive director of a group called Lost Boys up in Chicago, which mostly in the areas of Jackson Park and the South Shore uses a baseball tutoring and mentoring program to stop the gun violence. Unfortunately, his 17-year-old son was shot on Sunday during a delivery, and it was a random shooting. He was not the target. He is doing well and he is recovering, but I want to send a special shout out and special set of prayers to my friend Levante and his family. We are fighting for you and we are standing with you, and we hope that your son has a quick and beautiful recovery. I have to send a rest in peace and rest in power, of course, to Tina Turner, who was born in 1939 and passed, unfortunately, just this month at the age of 83 years old. We also have to give a rest in peace to Jordan Neely, who was choked to death on May 1st, 2023, up in New York by a Marine who has since been charged with second-degree manslaughter. And of course, we always send a rest in power and peace to the victims of the mass shootings. It seems like every time we have an episode, we have some mass shootings that have happened. And this time we're commemorating the mass shootings in Texas and Florida and so many other places. We also, as the government ends its official decree on COVID-19, the pandemic, we want to say rest in peace and power to the victims of COVID and long COVID who have died at the hands of the failure of government action. And we continue to take precautions like mask wearing, like getting our vaccinations and our boosters so that we can help, especially those that are living with disabilities who are at increased risk of catching COVID. It is still a problem. The pandemic is still ongoing, and we have yet to see the full effects of long COVID. And so we continue to stand with those. Y'all, when it comes to reparations, and when it comes to looking ahead to season 4 and what our work looks like in the fall, we are continuing to fight for educational reparations. That means paying the educational debt to every single Black and Brown student based off of the violence that has been done to them, policy violence, curriculum violence, from not only in 2023 but throughout the decades. We look at reparations, and we see in California that a state panel has recommended $1.2 million in reparations and cash payments to those descendants of enslaved Africans. And so we continue that fight in that conversation nationwide. In fact, it's going to be a great theme of our season 4 episodes: educational reparations. We also mark this month Mental Health Awareness Month. There's some great scholarships, some great research recently that shows how first, number one, how this generational trauma has been so dastardly and so violent towards our current generation of Black students. And so as we deal with students in the classroom, we know that their DNA has been altered based on enslavement and so many other anti-Black phenomenon and policies, and that we have to grapple with the history of slavery and Black trauma when dealing with our students today. And that adds, we're adding on the pandemic. There's so much trauma, so many different things to consider when dealing with behavior and mental health of our students. And as we continue, there's this really interesting study done by our Surgeon General that shows that isolation, if someone is isolated, that's almost as 5 times as bad as if someone's smoking cigarettes. That's how dastardly that practice is to their health. And so as we continue with this pandemic, and we continue with so many of the health challenges, we have to battle the mental health aspects and symptoms as well. It's not just about the physical challenges, but isolation is something, based on this study, that is something that is incredibly dangerous to someone's health. And so this summer we of course focus on joy. This summer we focus on mental health. This summer we focus on the needs that individuals have based on what works for them, whether they're introverts or extroverts. And then finally, as we continue, I want to update you all, of course, on the classroom censorship fight. You know that this program centers classroom censorship. Unfortunately, our neighbor to the south, the state of Florida, has banned and defunded diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at their universities. In fact, that's been followed by recent law signed in Texas as well. So diversity, equity, inclusion laws and programs, which that's my number one job now, those have been defunded and outlawed at major universities in those 2 states. And I bring up what's happening in Texas and Florida because we have to understand those in context of what's happening here. What happens there and what happens in other conservative southern states, we should be prepared to come to the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia is not immune, is not extinct. It's not. We cannot ignore what's happening in other states. What's happening in other states, the right wing and conservative attacks, the laws being passed, gives us a good sense of what might happen here with a Republican majority in both houses of the General Assembly, with a Republican governor elected with more votes than last time, who is more empowered and might be in the running for the 2024 presidential election. We have to be vigilant, and we have to be aware of what's happening in those 2 states so we can understand what might happen next in our state. And then finally, I really didn't want to talk about this tonight, y'all. I'm gonna be honest. I'm really frustrated and upset about the presidential election. The 2024 presidential election has kicked off with President Joe Biden declaring his reelection in cahoots with his running mate Kamala Harris. And on the Republican side, we have such a mess. Of course, running high in the polls is Donald Trump, former president who's running for re-election. Also, Governor DeSantis of Florida, who's running for election. And so we want to make sure that we are aware of who's running and what their platforms are. And of course, we have a black man running for re-election, or for election rather, U.S. Senator Tim Scott. U.S. Senator Tim Scott from the great state of South Carolina. Now, he's not the only one running from South Carolina. We also have Nikki Haley, who served as ambassador to the United Nations under Donald Trump. But it is really frustrating, heartbreaking to see a black man run on an anti-black agenda by attacking critical race theory, by attacking all the things that are either tied to or authentically connected to black people in order to win. And so we will continue to fight to make sure that he and so many of the Republicans, the truth about them are clear, that we can be very vigilant, that we can be very self-aware, we can continue to tell the truth about these candidates. That's what it's all about now. And so as we continue that effort, y'all stay tuned because we will be doing some truth telling. Now, I want to this episode, which is our season finale, I wanted to do some reflections. There's so much that has happened this semester, this school year, over the past year, that I want to make sure that we have discussed here on this program. The first is why this program exists. The That Way program, the impetus for it was to respond to the classroom censorship or the anti-CRT, critical race theory, attacks coming from specifically the state of Georgia, but also nationally and across southern states. Here in Georgia, that fight began in June, about the summer, around June 2021. We began hearing as teachers, as activists, students, and others that the state of Georgia, the State Board of Education, would pass a law, or a resolution condemning critical race theory, which they did in June 2021. And it didn't even mention critical race theory, right? It mentioned race, it mentioned certain perspectives and interpretations when it came to history. But we know this to be a historical effort to silence the critical lens and the Black centric lens when it comes to teaching history and so many other subjects. So that began in the state of Georgia around 2021. We began a group called the Teach Truth Collective, and we also partner with groups like the Georgia Youth Justice Coalition to make sure that, number one, our students, our staff, and all members of our school communities still had access to authentic history and authentic truth telling when it came to the curriculum. Number two, that we were resisting the laws, the legislation, the policies and procedures that would follow this attack on critical race theory, that we're protecting our students, our staff, and our families against the direct attacks and against the misinformation. And number three, that we were going to teach it anyway. And that's what this program is about. That Way is an example of how you can continue to teach and resist anti-Black and classroom-centric attacks on our education, and how you can continue truth-telling from a Black-centric perspective. On this program, we continue to uplift Black history and Black voices, Black stories, and Black needs when it comes to so many issues with education at the forefront. But I wanted to be clear about where we came from. Now, this academic year, in this legislative session, which is probably our third under classroom censorship, has been unique because the Republicans have not stopped After being reelected in November of 2020, our governor and our General Assembly has been more empowered to pass right-wing and conservative laws, those that restrict our history, that restrict our health care, that restrict our voting rights, that attack trans individuals, that attract queer individuals, that attack Black history, and so many other priorities that we have valued and centered on this program right here. And so when I think about and reflect on where we go, there's been a little bit of divergence in the organizing community in our coalition against classroom censorship or divisive concepts, because some folks have invested and prioritized calls to action against the current legislation that continues classroom censorship. For instance, this government, this past legislative session, passed a law that bans trans affirming healthcare and other resources for minors. That means if you are under 18, you cannot get surgery, you cannot get consultation, you not get other life-saving resources if you identify as transgender. And so rightfully so, our coalition said, hey, we got to fight against these priorities. We have to bring our folks to the Capitol. We have to have people in the hearings. We have to have people emailing and calling. But a lot of folks, including teachers, pros practitioners in our buildings, don't know about past laws. So there's been a split in our energy and our investment, and that some people are continuing to call people to action. Hey, you need to call your representative. Hey, you need to write down to the Capitol. Well, some of us are saying we need to educate folks. And even though it's been a year since 1084 or the Protect Students First Act has been passed, we have to educate, especially parents and students and families and teachers, because they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's illegal to teach in the classroom. They don't know what's being targeted to teach in the classroom, and we got to let them know. And so recently, you all know that we had a book bans read-in where we read some of the excerpts of the books that have been targeted and banned right here in the state of Georgia, including places like Cobb County and Forsyth County. Our goal has to be, as organizers and advocates, education. We have to make this issue attractive, and we have to make this issue matter to the average person. We have to make book bans and classroom censorship as important as any other policy issue, because there is intentional policy and curriculum violence being done to our students and our families every single day. And so we have to stand up against it. So that's one major reflection, is that yes, I will call people to action. Yes, I will ask you to write your representative and sign this petition and call this individual. But it's more important that we educate the folks on what's actually happening. And you have come to the right place if you have come to that way to learn what's happening. Most recently, as I said, the states of Florida and Texas have banned diversity, equity, inclusion, whether it be in training programs or classroom instruction at the higher ed or tertiary level in the states of Florida and Texas. And if you don't think that's coming to the state of Georgia, then you are sorely mistaken. Stay vigilant and stay woke, folks. So I have to start there. Folks, I also got to get into some reflections. I've been doing this organizing around equity this is my 5th year. This is my 5th year in education. Number 5, I'm celebrating number 5 in education. And I'm so proud and so happy to have transitioned from a classroom teacher to a district position. I will admit, and I've admitted, I think during season 1, I have added to the polarization around classroom censorship. I was on the opposite side of so many white parents in Gwinnett when it came to COVID and mask wearing, when it came to teaching CRT or teaching ethnic studies. I was adding to the vitriol and to the polarization because I believed in the positions we're taking. When I think about some of the groups we started, we had a group called Teach Truth Coalition, which we changed the name recently to the Teach for Freedom Collective. Because what is truth? Who has the claim on truth? Who has the claim on what actually is truth and what actually stands as objective facts in today's time? Now, of course, as a history teacher, I think certain things are truthful. I think certain things are factual. But I also believe in allowing my students and therefore the public to really explore different interpretations and perspectives, different narratives when it comes to history. And the fact that we have to learn Eurocentric standards when it comes to social studies prevents us from learning those diverse perspectives, narratives, and interpretations. But what is truth? The most important thing that I've gleaned from this journey of activism is a growth mindset. That if I'm truly going to do this work of organizing advocacy correctly, I have to understand my position and I have to be able to argue the opposite position. And that no one really has a claim or a stake on truth. That if you truly believe that you are not right, then you can stick to a growth mindset. And so no matter my board of education speeches, no matter the episodes on this platform, I want you to know that I'm committed to a growth mindset. And for us to all collectively get to some sort of facts, but within those diverse interpretations, perspectives, and narratives. It's crazy because the crazy narratives or the wild narratives that might come from the right wing or conservative side, some of those things we agree with you on. And what would it look like if we came together as two sides in a binary debate to actually discuss and talk about what's best for our children and the next generation? And so I wanted to leave you all with that level of reflection because it's been so important. And finally, you all know that a year ago I was in the classroom. I was a teacher, classroom teacher, high school teacher teaching Africana Studies, government, and high school transition at Frederick Douglass High School. And I have had some of my colleagues on this platform. And unfortunately, our conversations have led to some targeting. We were targeted by Atlanta Public Schools, and we underwent an investigation. And when I think about where I am now, I now serve as equity coordinator in the city schools of Decatur. I'm incredibly proud of the relationships, of the partnerships, of the shared and collective investment. Because at the end of the day, no matter what anyone says, I know that it's Black students, it's the Black youth, it's individuals like Victoria that we've had in this program. It's individuals like Jefferson that we had in this program, or Christian. Students that I've had the pleasure of teaching and nurturing. Those are the reasons that we do this. And those are the reasons why I am willing to be fired from any job. I'm willing to get in any level of trouble. Unless you have a noose around my neck or a gun to my head, I can't stop teaching the truth to the next generation. I can't stop, won't stop. And I continue to center and uplift their voices. And I'm so proud of the work and the contributions that they've done to make this work worthwhile. And so as I think about moving forward in a district level position, I want to shout out my community of teachers, of comrades, of students, of families that I serve. You all continue to remind me of my why and why I do this work. I'm in this to win this, y'all. I'm in this for the long haul, just like James Baldwin, just like Fannie Lou Hamer. This is my life's contribution. And so I'm so glad to present some of these reflections, but a special conversation. And so before we end this episode, I want to bring on someone so near and dear to my heart. She doesn't even know it fully. My friend, Marissa. Marissa, can you hear me? Oh, Marissa. Oh, no, Marissa, I can't hear you. Oh, hold on. Let me unmute you. You might be on mute. Are you on mute? No, you're not. Let me see. Mute mic. Okay, there we go. Can you hear me? Go ahead and say something.
Like, I could not hear you for like the first 15, 18 minutes. I was like, what's going on? I can hear you now, though. You sound good.
Marissa, thank you so much.
I know.
So let's take it back. Let's step back and contextualize this conversation, folks. This season has been about centering folks, celebrating folks, supporting folks. We've brought on Black students. We've brought on Black teachers. We've talked about Black scholarship under attack. We've talked about Black women scholars specifically, and we've had so many conversations about what does Black education look like, not just in the brick and mortars, not just in our public schools, but also in our within our households and our communities. What does being Black and affirming our Black identity look like? And that's the conversation I want to end with today. 10 years ago, this past Thursday, I graduated from Burkmore High School in Lilburn, Georgia, which is part of Gwinnett County Public Schools. You all know that's the same school district that I returned to begin my teaching career. It was a phenomenal. And I just want to, if we can, Marissa, go back to that specific day. Now, I hope to have some pictures to show you all, but again, you'll have to go to Liberation Learning on Facebook. You'll have to go to Hello Liberation on Instagram, at the North Star on Instagram to see some of those pictures. But 10 years ago, this past Thursday, you and I graduated along with scores and hundreds of other students from the Birchmar High School. Go Patriots! To begin our entry into the real world. And if I can just briefly talk about that day, I spent 13 years trying to conquer the world. I'm the oldest of four boys, and my mom, who at the time of my birth was a Spelman Jr., taught me that I had to be twice as good. I had to work twice as hard to be half as good and get half as much as white folks. And there's so many Black families and so many Black scholars that also get that same message. I remember this day specifically. It May 25th, 2013. After working my ass off for 13 years, here I was. I had the chords and I had the pins to show that I had worked my ass off. I was top of my class. I think I graduated rank number 4. Full ride scholarship to the University of Chicago. Clubs and extracurricular activities out the Yahoo. 1780 AP credits. I, as class treasurer, gave the class speech, delivering our class gift to our principal at the time, Dr. Zen. And the class gift was inscribed with, "We may not know what our future holds, but we know who holds our future." And I remember that morning, our graduation ceremony was at 9 a.m. that morning. And as an honor graduate, I knew I had to get there extra early. I probably woke up at 5 or something. I'd already had my tassel and my cords laid out, my gown laid out. My grandma and some other family members had flown in the day before, and we were all legs and arms. You know how it is, legs and arms on top of each other. I don't even remember where I slept, whose futon or whose blow-up mattress. But I know that they were there to celebrate me, and I went in. I drove myself to what's called the Gas South Arena. I can't remember what it's called. Infinite Arena, maybe at the time.
Infinite, yeah.
Right, where everybody graduates in Gwinnett County. We went there very early. Again, it's probably 6 a.m., 6:30. Show up, and I was just so elated. I was weighed down by my many tassels and cords. And that day for me was reaching the mountaintop, finally getting to the top. This is all that I had worked my ass off for. This is why I didn't go to parties. This is why I didn't drink or smoke. This is what my mom had instilled in me. Can you take us back to that day? What are you thinking? Early as hell in the morning?
Oh, man.
What are you thinking?
To be honest, the morning was such a blur because I think I was really tired. And Kim and I, those of you who know wonderful Kimberly Craddock, who I grew up with, and bright and early. I mean, I think we went to bed so late and we knew better, but we did it anyway and woke up scrambling. I think we woke up a little bit late. I remember stealing her clothes and just being like, this is it. And my mom just making sure that we're checking everything off the list. You got this, you got this. Make sure you got your hat. Make sure everything is good. And honestly, I honestly think if it wasn't for mom like yelling and pushing us through the door that morning, I think we would have been so late. I think we would have been so late. But that morning, man, I think it hadn't hit me yet. I think for a lot of us, like when I got there, I was talking to my friends and everything, and a lot of us were like, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's just a normal day. Like, I don't think it really hit until like we were getting ready to walk out to our seating arrangements. And I was like, oh, it's happening. Oh, that happened quick. But before then, all that morning leading up was just like, honestly, a huge blur, because I remember even like when I got there, everything was so hectic, everybody was moving so quick that I was just like, okay, yeah, this is happening, but it still didn't hit me for like a good minute.
Yeah, and so let's talk about our senior year, right? Because I remember that day being a culmination of so much, right? That we had gone through, and I didn't really party. I didn't do anything because my mom was determined to make sure I passed the finish line, and I was too. I think that by junior year, I was like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm not coming back to Gwinnett County. And here I am, 4 minutes.
Here you are.
Meadow Creek, 4 miles away from where the first house we lived in when I started Rebecca Minor Elementary School. What was and even those last 2 years, not just the last year, the last 2 years were kind of a little chiller because I had worked my ass off so long that I knew I had by first semester senior year I had my full ride. By my junior year, I knew that I was on the right track. But you know what, Marissa? It wasn't about knowing myself. It was about knowing these grades. Like I was my grades. I was my resume. I was my accomplishment. So when I got to college, I had to figure out, wait, what's Anthony outside of this? Because I got my first B. I got all A's in high school. I got my first B in college. I got my first C in college. I got my first F in college. So okay. If Anthony is not his grades, who the hell is he? What for you? What was that like those last 1 to 2 years as you're getting ready to leave everything that you know?
I think mine was more of a scramble than yours, for sure. Because I think I spent my first half of high school thinking what I knew I wanted to do, thinking I knew what I wanted to be. And I think when it finally got towards the end, I was like, oh, I might not know. And this is when I'm supposed to know, right? We're supposed to spend the past 4 years figuring out what we're going to do after we graduate. And now I'm scrambling. So I remember being like, it was definitely more focus on, like you said, grades and everything. I really don't think a lot of us had an opportunity to explore ourselves until really after high school. Because I know that you busted your tail and, I did the best I could, got by. But I think a lot of it, you stay focused on everything that's not important in high school. And then other than that, all you stay focused on is grades. So then for you, where it was, who is Anthony? I think I got out and I was just like more focused on, still, what am I going to do? Like, I know you had this huge plan this huge plan for yourself. And I was just like, we're gonna ride the boat till we find it. And that's okay. I think a lot of people kind of get stuck where they think it's not okay, and I think it's okay. Um, no, the last 2 years was, oh, it was hard. Oh, it was hard. I really, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't think I was gonna make it.
Mm. And so I think this is important because I think our relationship, we got closer as we got closer to graduation, and that was, for me, that was special because so many of my peers stayed within their classes. Right, if you would take AP classes, you would hang out with the AP classes. If you're
Hmm.
in band, you go stay in band. So being in band, being in AP classes, being in certain classes, I ran across folks who were definitely silos, definitely stayed
Yeah.
within their corner of the school. But for me, it was about, I loved Berkmar. I had a great experience at Berkmar. It always broke my heart when people um, um, downgraded or talked shit about our school because we
Hmm.
were low income, because we didn't have as many resources or school spirit as other schools.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started teaching at Peachtree Ridge, and they were complaining, "Oh, we don't have as much school spirit as Grayson, or we don't have things that Mountain View had." Shit, you got more than Berkmar had? Damn. I was in the band. That means I was in the stands, in the football stand every single Friday night, whether the team's losing, whether they winning, and they losing more than they winning. And for me,
I'm gonna stick beside him.
man, for me, it was also about finding myself outside the classroom. So
Yeah.
I do appreciate my time in band. I do appreciate my time in the community because it helped a little bit later when I did try to find, okay, who is Anthony outside of these grades? I was percussionist, which I loved. Right, I love drumming. I loved the xylophone. I love the timpani. I
Yeah.
did that. I've been doing that since the sixth grade. What did Marissa cling on to outside of this rat race of the grades, the classes, and graduation?
Well, you know, for me, I was very involved in chorus, um, theater, all that great stuff. So I think I honestly, outside of the classroom and everything, I kind of associated myself more with that. But like you said, I had really, our friendship kind of grew out of nowhere, but I think it was just from us being able to see each other more often. Um, because I have friends here and there. I don't necessarily feel like um, I enjoyed sticking to one group or one clique. I because for me that helped me take my mind off of the schoolwork, all that other stuff. I'm like, nah, I'm trying to I'm trying to hang out with my people, my folks. For me, it's just who has my back, who do I know is going to be supportive for me. And so I'm really glad that, I know you had your band thing going on, but I know every now and then I would pop up like, hey, like, aren't you supposed to be in the chorus room? Yep, sure am. And I'm not. And I'm not. But no, majority of me, I just was always around that chorus group, theater group.
Yeah,
That was just my thing. So for me, that was what outside of classwork, grades, that's what it was. I mean, I wasn't really doing much of anything else except for chorus or theater stuff. Like, so I think that kind of also shaped me into being more open to talk to more groups of people and being, sorry, things in my room are making noises, being more open to, like, I don't know, explore more and just instead of staying in the books, in the classroom bubble. I didn't like doing that too much. So,
yeah, yeah. Well, Marissa, I wanted to bring you on just really to express my appreciation, gratitude for stick with me. Y'all, we've been friends for a long time, and so many of our friends, we go way back, like two flats on a Cadillac with two fat girls in the back. Come on. And so Marissa is one of those folks that can tell you who Anthony was before this teaching stuff, before this activist stuff, before this rebel rouser stuff. And I really appreciate sticking and staying connected with people that know me authentically, that know me, that know my heart, that know my soul, that know my interest, that know I'm a goofy ass blank blank blank. At the end of the day, it's what allowed me to go in the classroom. So y'all, please give it up to Marissa. And y'all, I didn't want tonight's conversation to be long. I just wanted to chill with you all. And so as we give it up to Marissa, I also want to give it up to a few people. Number one, give it up to Bettina Love, whose book is out. Her sequel is out. Please check out her sequel as we continue the conversation on educational reparations. My brother, my youngest brother, y'all know I got 3 younger brothers. My youngest brother turns 21 on Saturday. Who the heck? Okay.
What are we doing?
Father's Day is coming up. Juneteenth is coming up. This summer break, I'll be taking some time out of the office for my mental health, my self-care, and my joy. I'm so excited to dig deep and just really remind myself of who I am because I'm him. Okay, I got to remind y'all sometimes. But thank you so much, Marissa, for being here. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all, this is our last season on educational entities. We'll be switching over to our platform, 100% powered and produced by us, Liberation Learning, in September. Season 4 airs in September. We thank Marissa. We thank all of our guests across season 3. And most importantly, we thank you because without you, we probably wouldn't have a show. Y'all take care. Be blessed. So much peace and joy in your life that we wish, and we hope that you all have a great summer break. Because when it comes to the new school year, we got some battles to have when it comes to defending Blackness and Black history. But until then, y'all take care. Thank y'all so much. Ashe. That's the end of season 3. We out.